Picture this. You're playing your favorite online multiplayer game and your top laner, your friend, dies. And he's like, damn it! I almost had that. I could have done it. I should have killed him. I should have won that. I should have this. Right? Picture that. A common enough scenario, and in fact, it happens all too often, and if it happens enough, you might wonder, why does this happen so much? Why do people say that? Why should he have won? Why should he have won? You know, what about the enemy? Didn't the enemy deserve credit for what he did to your friend, or you even? Because we all go through this. I began to question myself a few years ago, and I learned a lot about how gameplay works, how gameplay actually works on the inside, not just on the outside, not just what I think should happen, but really what is going on in the inside. Basically, I call it gameplay theory. It's a theory of what exactly is happening in the game, you know, why people make decisions, why. So the core question I wanted to answer, why do people win? Why does somebody win a game time after time, almost commandingly, right? It should be more even. But no, you consistently have one person who always wins and always clutches it out. Every time it's a tight situation, he'll win. And it's not unique to certain people. It's not just one person, you know. It's always the better player within two people. Why is he always winning? Right, that's kind of the question I want to answer. Or she. Because I do know a lot of female gamers, and I think they're quite good. So, he or she. But the reason I came to realize I learned gameplay is entirely a result of its own self, right? And that you're wondering what does all of that mean? Basically, everything that matters is in the game itself, right? It's not the human element does dictate what can happen, but what does happen is limited to what happens in the game. It doesn't matter how hard you try. Your character will only go so far, only jump so high, only does so much damage. That's what I like to call gameplay. A lot of people think you need a good player in order to perform well, or in order to, you know, be one of the greats, right? And that's not the case. Look at the gameplay itself. Gameplay is the only thing that determines the gameplay is the gameplay itself. And sure, there is a player. There are great players that translate and can execute the great gameplay, but they are still reliant on the gameplay itself. I think a lot of people challenge this theory because they keep losing, right? And they keep choking, and they keep seeing players better than them, and they're wondering, well, he's so good, you know, or I'm getting so unlucky, or I'm just so bad, I'll never stop choking. And these players only looking at it from their perspective and are failing to realize that it's actually their own deficiencies, their own self-conscious biases and tendencies are actually separate from the gameplay, right? You can be the least confident person in the world, but if you can press the right buttons, you'll get the right outcome. So I think that's something that a lot of people should look away from, you know, and get away from. And I use that word "should" lightly because I think it's a poisonous word, but in any case, it is something that people, in my opinion, doesn't help because, or even is irrelevant, because the thing is, whether or not what they believe doesn't actually become a result within the game itself. If you know how to manipulate the game, then you can get the results that you want to get. You know, I think there is a human element, of course. Obviously, you know, a human is required to press the buttons, or if you give up, you know, you give up. So obviously, it's a human element. But the truth is, the objective truth, the gameplay itself determines the gameplay, nothing else. So that's part one of gameplay theory. It's a little. I didn't really discuss anything, but you know, if you like gameplay theory, if you like this kind of stuff, give it a watch, give it a listen. There are three main qualities of gameplay that are rather important. One, it's objective. Two, it's manipulatable. And three, it is quantifiable, right? And so by objective, what I mean is that it's impossible to argue. If you die, or if you lose, or if you perform worse than someone else, regardless of the circumstances, you perform worse. There's no subjective reality. And a lot of times in real life, if you failed to do something, you can make the argument that at least you tried, and your real goal is trying. In a game, if you fail to meet the goal, you fail to meet the goal. There's no, and it's simply because it is just a game. Everyone's favorite phrase as a kid. It's just a game, and you can't really make the argument that trying hard enough mattered, because losing isn't a big deal. It's just a game, right? So, and that's even besides the point. The point is that there's a very clear-cut goal. Second one, it's manipulatable. It's kind of a weird point, but I think this is an important point, because you can go back into a game, or you can recreate exact scenarios in games, and not all games, like some games, League of Legends, for example, you can't quite, but there is a principle I came up with that, close enough, right? But anyway, you can recreate scenarios, right? And obviously a lot of older games are like task games, situations can be recreated, and actually even in games like League of Legends where you can't recreate specific scenarios, I would argue that that's not true. Actually, you can recreate specific scenarios. It's still a point on a map, right? In real life, you can't quite do that. You can go back. You can restart games. It is a system. You can start a fight and then ignite him right at the beginning or ignite him at the end. In League of Legends and fighting games is a good example where it's a manipulatable system. In real life, not quite the same, right? So it's a little bit easier to analyze games in an objective manner. And the third one I like to call it virtual. And why is it being virtual so important? The reason my opinion, being virtual is highly important is it's not based on human limitations, right? It's based on, there's some human limitations with controllers or, there's some like obvious stuff. But generally it's up to everyone. And the real idea is that you can't die in real life. You can't break a bone. You can't injure yourself like you could in traditional sports. But we still get that fear response, right? If you about to die or something really bad happens, you still get really jittery or you jump, your heart increases. But it's a game. It's completely virtual. So why would that happen? And then does it affect your gameplay? Can it affect it negatively? And then are there ways to go around that, right? Could you play perfectly calm in any situation? Could you do that in real life? I argue that you could do that in real life, in a real life sport, or even in a real life scenario. But then would you even want to? Because what if you did break your leg and you couldn't play anymore? Is it worth that risk? Is it even a benefit? But in the gaming world, not the case at all. You could, in fact, play with completely calm in all scenarios. There's nothing to say you couldn't, right? And so with all three of those, I think those are the three important aspects of gameplay that allow it to be a little bit more analyzed, a little bit more objectively, and be analyzed with a little bit more possibilities. Because the true theory of gameplay is that, it's wondering, why do certain people win? Looking at games, you can find out the reasons, and then it does translate to real life. All right, that is kind of the theory coming at you guys. If you like my videos, if you like my weird ideas, then hit the like button. If you don't like them, a lot of people don't like them. A lot of people don't like being told that they choke because they suck, or that choking doesn't exist, and they're just out of the game. A lot of people don't like being told that, so leave a dislike in that sense. And I'm gonna get out of here, guys. I'm gonna blast out of here, okay?